on.
Fight back!
Stand up!
Fight back!
Stand up!
Fight back!
Stand up!
Fight back!
Stand up!
Fight back!
Jeannie Ray, National President of the National Tertiary Education Union. I'm here to support the members at Murdoch University. I've come over from Melbourne, that's where our national office is, to bring the greetings and solidarity from the NTEU branches from all around the country. Look, I think we have to see this in a context of Australia is one of the lowest spending and lowest taxing countries in the OECD, in the comparable countries. And it's not at all surprising that we're worried about the quality of our graduates. If you look at the countries where the kids are doing well at school, yes, it is connected to resources. They're the high spending, decent taxing countries. So that we're just so dominated on both sides of politics with this view that you've got to cut taxes, not spend money, and then somehow expect everyone to get a reasonable go. You talk the language of fair go, but it isn't followed through. And so what we're left with then is the universities going, oh well, we'll have to cut the amount of money we put into staff. So we'll start to casualise teaching. And we've got more than half of teaching's now taught by casuals. We'll put more people on fixed term contracts. We could save a little bit of money doing that. Think of the impact that has on research. How do you be a fearless researcher if you're worried about your next contract? How do you get up and teach controversial stuff if you don't know if you're going to have a job the next day? The very point of universities is to be a critic and a conscience of society. You know, we educate the people that go on into the professions, that go on into public life, that be decent citizens. This is the expectation. And we have to do the research. We're supposed to solve the wicked problems that are facing the world. And yet they're expecting us to do it increasingly with people who don't know if they're going to get paid in a month's time, a semester's time, or even the next week if they're a casual employee. And then we have people being threatened with yet another restructure and redundancies every time you turn around. So what this at Murdoch that they're trying to do, this attempt to terminate the enterprise agreement, would take us back to the award. Now the awards are a safety net. They're just there in the background, and so you negotiate agreement that's going to be a big improvement. So if we went back to the award, that would mean a 30% or more pay cut. It would mean that the redundancy provisions, which include redeployment, include some sort of respectful exit too, if you do end up having to go. That would just be deteriorate by 80% for academics, about 2/3 for the general and professional staff. You'd lose any employer-paid parental leave. It affects all of these things that we build up to make for a fair and decent working place, which you would expect a university like Murdoch that has a record as having a progressive attitude. We've heard alumni speak today about what an important place it was for them studying here. And, frankly, how do we go out and say, how as a current member of staff go out and say Murdoch's a great place to come when they're looking on either side and thinking, will my colleagues be here? And the Murdoch story isn't different to other universities, so we've got to stop these attempts to make things worse here.
Do you feel any of this is a knock-on effect from government policy? Do you think they've created an environment where this kind of thing is going to become more and more common?
Look, I think you've got a government that both refuses to invest in education and at all levels, and including higher education, and at the same time they're obsessed with trying to find ways of running down and destroying trade unions and the ability for workers to organise. So for someone like me, a career academic and currently the president of the union, this seems to me like the perfect storm. Here are we trying to stick up for decent education and research, and here we have a government that's trying to both run down our higher education and do in unions and workers organise. Why does Murdoch have a decent reputation? Because of staff. We must never ever forget it's because of your efforts that Murdoch can stand proud.
I invite Sue Lyons, Labor Senator, to speak to us. Sue, before joining Parliament, was a Bachelor of Education from Murdoch University. So welcome back, Sue, and I really appreciate that you can speak with us.
Time that you sat down in good faith and you put forward your best offer, you cancel your outrageous aggressive action in the Fair Work Commission, and you sit down with staff and you get the agreement done before the holiday season begins. So remain collective, join the union and the fight.
Okay, I'd like to call
continues.
on Joanne Wally, who's a member of the bargaining team. She's the professional staff vice president, to say a few words, and then I'm going to hand over to Gabe finally to wrap us up and tell us where we can go from here.
I'm Joanne Wally. I'm on the union bargaining team. I'm also the Vice President of General Staff on the National NTU branch committee. Today's rally was fantastic. I'm just so proud of my fellow workers. They've come out in force. We've got representatives from other unions, from other universities. It's so great to see solidarity, and remembering it's only like just like every week before Christmas. So it's not a time when there's a lot of people on campus. So what a fantastic rally, and it's a long fight, and it's going to take everyone coming together, and this is a fantastic start. As I said, I'm really proud of my fellow staff. I'm disgusted with management. I think their behaviour is disgraceful, and quite frankly, I've been sitting in 7 months of bargaining across the table from them, and I'm not impressed.
Have they come up with any valid reasons for the cuts?
No. In fact, across the table, we've been asking those questions of why do you want to take this clause out and put it into policy? What's your reasoning? What in the current clause around this matter, impedes your business? And they just refuse to answer. They just go back to their slogan. We want it to be simple, we want it to be contemporary, we want it to be fair. Well, they've shown that it's none of those things. It's neither simple, contemporary nor fair, and they're well out of step with community standards on what they've done in this last week.
What do you think the effects of these cuts might be on students in particular and staff?
If they have their way and they have our EA deregulated, well, they can immediately start cutting. They can immediately cut wages right back to the award level. They can immediately cut out all sorts of things from paid parental leave. Right. There's a whole swathe of things that they can take out. What they'll choose to take out will be up to them. But what they're trying to do is to take away an EA that was negotiated and that was voted on, not just by the union, but by every single staff member, was given the opportunity to vote at the last round of bargaining on that agreement. And they democratically voted yes. They said, yes, we agree with this. We agree with the pay rise, we agree with what's been negotiated by the union, and we're happy to accept this. And management accepted it. They signed off on that EA. And for them to turn around now and try and flush that down the toilet is it just shows that when they sat across from us at the table for the last 7 months, have anything that comes out of their mouths, well, it can't be trusted.
Do you feel that this kind of action is a knock-on effect of government policy?
Oh, I think it does, and I think I had someone, work colleague today, whose sister works in mining. She works in HR, and the news stories around this are just they're flying around in private industry. The management of those big companies, they are salivating at the thought of being able to wipe out enterprise bargaining and get people back onto individual contracts. And if it rolls out in of all places, a university, and what's worth, Murdoch University, which has always had an incredible reputation for progressive and largely left-wing standards, it's very distressing.
Claire Fletcher. I'm here as a Murdoch staff member. I work in the library, and I'm also here as the Murdoch branch NTU treasurer. So I'm on the committee. I'm also on the bargaining team. So I've been sitting in the room across from these people for 6 months.
And why did you come today?
Because I'm absolutely fed up and frustrated with their attitude towards staff. It's utterly disrespectful to throw away our agreement like this and expect us to just take whatever they give us. They haven't moved their positions in bargaining. They handed us an offer with an abysmally low pay rate and insisted that if we took that, we took all of the conditions they wanted to change. And when we said no, they said, all right, screw you, we're throwing away the entire agreement. It's just not good enough.
Where to now?
We fight, and we continue to fight, and we fight in the commission, and we fight in the courts, and we fight in the public media, and we let everybody know that this is what Murdoch thinks of its staff. I think employers are feeling empowered because of the government that is currently in place. I think also universities are under some real pressures to do with funding, which again is due to the governments that are in place. So I would say that this is the wrong reaction for universities to be making. They should be supporting people, and they should be empowering people to work towards a more progressive society.
Will this affect students?
It absolutely will affect students. Staff who work on insecure contracts and staff who work as casuals have less time to dedicate to their teaching. They're frequently under incredible pressure. And so students suffer. They get less individual contact, they get less input on their assignments, they get less time to deal with people who they're aspiring to be like. It's a disgusting situation for the students and for the staff involved.
The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated.
My name's Nick. I've been working as a sessional academic on Curtin University. Today, Murdoch University staff are here because our collective agreement is being terminated, or the university is trying to terminate our collective agreement. Basically, that would mean that staff are covered only by award conditions, which is a skeleton industrial instrument that gives us very few rights and significant reduction in pay. We think this is grossly unfair, and that staff need to resist this move. So as a sessional academic, I'm just casually employed. I wait over the summer to find out if I'm re-employed the next semester or not, and this kind of cut in wages and conditions would basically mean the end of employment for people like me on this university, and a serious deterioration in conditions of education for students. In practical terms, the university is going to find it harder to employ sessional staff to tutor and to do the jobs that they do.
Do you think that'll lead to a drop in
quality?
levels?
Absolutely, yep. So I think the university will seek to cut costs with larger class sizes. It'll draw on students to teach at reduced wages as part of the university's bargaining position, which will basically mean a reduction in income for students who do obtain work with the university. And not just income, but in employment conditions more generally.
The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. Merry Christmas, comrades.